When you invest in your home, you're investing into yourself. You're investing into your future. You gain equity. Everyone say equity. You gain equity. And you know, somebody about this point in this economy would say, Pastor, I don't know if that's always true. If you invest in your home, you gain equity. I just happen to know right now my house is upside down, and I invested in my home, and I'm upside down right now. Would you like a little revelation? Your pastor invested in his home, and his home is upside down right now as well. Well, my house is almost equal. Pastor Tammy's house is upside down. But I can tell you this. 3 years ago, it was way upside down. 2 years ago, it wasn't as bad, but still upside down. Now it is creeping up towards, you know what? If I go like this, I can get my nose above water. Why? Because it will not be upside down forever. Everyone say seasons. There are seasons when you invest in a home, and there are seasons when it could be upside down. There are seasons when you invest into your family, and there are seasons when it feels like your family is now upside down. I'll give you an example. My son Daniel, he's back there in the tech area. And as many of you know, some of you may not know, but about 6 years ago, I received a phone call from Daniel. And Daniel said he was away at another state and living in another state. And he called me one night and he said, Dad, how are you doing? And, you know, the normal chit-chat, father, son. And then he says the words I will never forget. He says, Dad, I'm not doing very well. Can I please come home? Of course, my son Daniel, I've never heard words like that out of his mouth in his life. So I said, I didn't even ask him what it was. I just said, yes, I will get you a plane ticket. You can come home. Over the next few weeks, we realized something's wrong with Daniel. We had invested in our family. Our family, you may not figure this out by now, we invest in our family. We invest in our family. We had invested in our family, and it turns out my son came home with a drug problem. So 6 years ago, he enters rehab. Now, for 6 years after he got out of rehab, Daniel has been clean from drugs. Amen? Now, we're still trying to get him off Red Bull and Monsters and 5-Hour Energy. Here's my point. There was a season where our family went upside down. All the investment we made into our family, and we went upside down. But how many of you know that was a season? There was a season a few years ago where Pastor Tammy, heard those words, you have cancer. Oh, and by the way, it's a very, what would you call it? Incurable, unique, not very often. You know what's the word I'm after? Rare, very rare form of this. It's like, I've never heard of this. Well, most people haven't. And we're sitting there, and our heads are swimming. You know, we had invested in our families. We had invested in our own lives. We had invested in our bodies. We had invested in our health. And we find ourselves in a season of upside down. Everybody say upside down. We found ourselves in a season of upside down. And that lasted about a year. And you went through it with us. But how many of you know we are no longer upside down in the health of Pastor Tammy? There was a season. Now, this week I went on the internet to look at some of our family videos. I know you guys have never seen any of our family videos. I was looking at one of our family videos on YouTube, and I noticed that it had over 31,000 views of one of our family videos. 31,000, it's there, 31,000 views. It's the video of Micah and Bethany telling Tammy and I on Thanksgiving morning that we're going to be grandparents. I'm telling you, when you invest in your family and you hear you're going to be grandparents, how many of you know that is like a big surge in equity? It's like, finally this boy's going to pay off. And 3 days later, Bethany has a miscarriage, and we're upside down as a family. We're upside down. We were in service with you. We're praying for Bethany that Sunday morning because she's in the hospital, and that Sunday morning she's having surgery because she internal bleeding and hemorrhaging inside. We were instantly upside down as a family, but we had invested in our family. And how many of you know, February 23rd, 2012, we went back into the equity when little London Grace showed up. Amen. There are seasons when you invest, and it feels like I've invested all. I've put it all out there. I've given it all. I've sowed, and I've given, and I've worked hard, and it feels like I'm upside down. It feels like I'm the only one serving, and my friends are walking around watching me. Now, let's be honest. Because that's what it feels like when we serve in the house of God, and we're serving, we're putting in the equity, spiritually speaking, and it feels like people are standing around watching us. But if we love our home and we value our home, we do the housework. Why? Because it's just a season. It's just a season. Every time we have invested into our home, into the right home, the home has invested more back into our lives than we ever put into the home. And I believe the house of God works the same way. I believe the house of God works the same way. Every time we have invested our life into the house of God has invested more back into our lives